Panasonic GH5. This is the first time I want to ditch Sony and switch to another brand. Sorry. Because on paper GH5 seems like the camera I'll be switching with my eyes closed. Unless they're hiding a deal breaker flaw like it snores at night, eats with its mouth open, or occasionally forgets to write on the memory card. I mean, just listen to this.
GH5 should ship sometime late March, early April. Should sell for just under $2,000. There's a lot of things we've done with the camera. We don't really have time to go through absolutely everything. Yeah. So I'll cover the main features. For video shooters and photographers, it has a 5-axis in-body stabilization system, and it works with lenses as well to give you our dual IS2 system, so you'll get very steady photos and very steady video. The sensors move to a 20 megapixel sensor, and we've removed what's called the anti-aliasing filter, so it'll be a very sharp image for photographers, and it gives us more sharpness to work with when we process the video content as well. For the autofocus system, I think is probably the biggest thing we've improved that a lot of people aren't focused on right now. The focus is much faster than it's ever been in any of our cameras before, but what's more important is that the camera is processing 480 images every second, and every single image is being autofocused in the camera. In the old system, we could only look at 240 images, and we'd only autofocus every 6th image. Yeah. So this is a much faster autofocus system for both video shooters as well as photographers. Now let's get to the video stuff everybody cares about.
Yeah.
So the camera can do 60 frames per second video in 4K. It can also do 30 frames per second and under in 4K at 10-bit 422 color. Yeah. So for people who want to color correct the files in post, they can do that. But then we'll also do a firmware down the road that will add something called hybrid log gamma, which means that for people who don't want to process their footage but they want more dynamic range, you'll be able to record those 10-bit 422 signals in a hybrid log gamma curve that will look great on a standard definition TV as well as an HDR 4K television, so you can do that internally. The camera will support up to 180 frames per second in 1080 as well, so great slow-mo functionality. We've gone to a full-sized HDMI port, so you can actually use full-size cables now. Yeah. And we're including a free cable lock, so it can lock the HDMI cable in, so you don't have to worry about it getting torn out of the camera. Aside from that, there'll be a firmware update that'll happen sometime in the summer. That's going to unlock an additional feature I think is very important. It's going to give you a 400 megabit 4K 30 and under,
wow.
all intra.
Okay, so that was something I was curious about, the megabit value.
Yeah,
wow.
So 400 megabit all intra, internal recording. So 30 frame, 24, 23, 976, you can do those. And then on top of that, the camera, Micro Four Thirds is a 4:3 aspect ratio sensor. That's the same shape as what was called Academy, which was the film that we used. So it was always 4:3 aspect ratio, and we added an anamorphic lens to get a CinemaScope look. Yeah. Well, because this camera shoots 4:3 native, like an Arri Alexa XT can, we're now giving you the ability to use the entire 4:3 sensor for recording video. You can use the entire
cropping.
Yeah, and so then you could add an anamorphic lens and get the same basic presentation as what an Arri Alexa would do at a fraction of the price. Now in the future, with that same firmware update that's going to add the 400 megabit, we're going to give you what's called a high resolution anamorphic mode. That means that you're going to be able to capture 18 megapixels at 30 frame or 24 frames per second in 4:3 aspect ratio. So incredibly high resolution, the highest res anamorphic mode I know of. Yeah. And then on top of that, let's say you don't want to use it for anamorphic. Let's say that you're doing skateboard videos or you're doing, extreme sports. Well, there's a lot of times where your subject comes out of frame and comes back in. Well, we could shoot what's called open gate, which means that you're in a 4:3 aspect ratio, knowing you're going to crop later. Yeah. You shoot wider, and you've got all this extra room up and above and down below what your natural framing would be. So you can go ahead and exploit that.
Yeah.
the GH4 and GH5 had fully articulated screens. But what's cool is that there's a lot of people who, like, we're in a vlogging situation.
Yeah.
You might not have a camera operator all the time, so you may have to turn it on yourself.
Yeah.
This allows you to do that. But it also is an uncropped 4K. It's going to use the full sensor width for 4K now. So wide-angle lenses will be wider on this than they were on the GH4.
Oh, perfect. And when is it coming out, you said?
Sometime, if it's not out by April, I'll be pretty upset. I've set up what's called I call a pseudo hybrid log gamma demonstration. The Shogun Inferno from Atomos has an HDR function built in, so you can preview what an HDR image will look like. The camera shoots in V-Log. This is a $100 firmware update, an unlock, but I have it on this camera. So you can see all the dynamic range here. You can see how the exposure looks almost identical from front to back.
Yeah.
This is corrected so the color looks right. And if you look, those lights are not overexposed. In fact, if I pull up the waveform monitor, you can see that nothing is above the 800 line, which means that we're all properly exposed, and I'm not losing anything in the shadows here, and I'm not getting anything blown out here.
Yeah.
Okay, now watch. I'm going to turn off HDR. The picture's going to get very bright, so I'm going to try to match the exposure for her so it looks the same as we see now. So I'm going to turn off log. It gets over.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my ISO down. And I have to close my aperture. So you can see now I'm at roughly the same exposure as we were before. But look at how overexposed those lights are now. And you can see that huge spike, and look at how hot we are here.
Yeah.
And that's a huge benefit of HDR, especially for people who don't shoot professionally. This scenario, if I have a shadow, I just relight it. It's when you got to shoot your kid's soccer game, or you got to shoot a football game, and it's noon and the sun is just beating down, and you get all the shadows.
Exactly.
This is going to make that so much easier to shoot for normal people. And the best part is that a hybrid log gamma will work with a high definition TV that's not HDR without having to do any corrections. It just works. And then when I put it onto a television set that is an HDR HLG 4K TV, hybrid log gamma TV, it will just work. It'll be perfect. It'll give you the extra dynamic range.
That is beautiful. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I am very excited about GH5, and I'll be reviewing it as soon as I can get my hands on it. Well, thank you very much for watching this short episode. We are at CES, and please hit that subscribe button. I must have a subscribe button somewhere here on the screen. Hit that subscribe button and join the world domination. And please let me know what you think about Panasonic GH5. Do you like GH5? Do you think it's worth ditching Sony and switching to Panasonic? In the comment section. We don't have any pillows, but I can lay on there. And until I see you the next time, take really good care of yourselves and hoşça kalın.